Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Three Attic Network. I'm merrymitch, and I'll be reading you some stories today. I am hoping that this stream meets you in some high spirits, and that you are ready for a very special tale that I have found for the likes of us today. Let's see. Let's give you a little update on my state of being. I've been pretty good. I will say the symptoms went away, and then they came back a little bit. And this is the same thing that happened to my dad and my brother when they got it. But they felt way better. And then about a couple days later, a really rough, heaving chest cough came rearing its ugly head, and that is exactly what happened to me. You may be able to hear it in my voice. I feel completely fine, right? A little bogged down with the amount of mucus and gunk that's in my system, but all together I feel pretty good. And again, you might not believe it from my voice, but regardless, I'm hoping that though the voice is taking a has taken a beating, gosh, it might do for a pleasant reading voice. We'll have to see. Yeah, I know. I hope that I can cough out the nasty virus. I've brewed myself a delicious cup of elderberry tea, and so I am hoping that this elderberry tea does its magic and helps my voice today as we read. I'm gonna try to take a sip. It might be too hot. Yeah, that's hot. I'm gonna try again. Whew. Hopefully it'll cool down pretty soon here. I'm gonna leave the cap off. If I can get it. Hello? Cap? I did it. I'm gonna try to leave the cap off for a little bit here, let it steam. Can you see the steam? Does that show up in the Oh, it does. It's actually kind of cool. All right. Well, I have also, let's see, continuing with the update, though my voice is taking a beating. I have been doing pretty good. I've been primarily just working a lot on the highlight reel number 2. And that is going quite fabulously, if I do say so myself. I'm about 6 minutes and 45 seconds into the edit. And it's it's beautiful. I gotta say, I've been having honestly an utter blast putting it together. These the little highlight reels have been a joy to work on and have given me something while I've been sick to do in my spare time, given me some room to flex my editing chops and learn a little bit more about the Premiere editing software. And it's been pretty sweet, honestly. I'm very excited for this next highlight reel. I think at the very least, the main thing I do it for is myself and my 3-addict family. And I'm thinking that the boys are gonna get a kick out of it for sure. So, hey, that's me. That's how I'm doing. I've also been watching the new season of Agretzko, which is a fantastic show, by the way. I rewatched all of it so that I would be caught up and would kind of know what's going on in the new season. And it's been an utter joy to check out. I've also been watching Ranking of Kings. I don't know if any of you have seen Ranking of Kings. If you haven't, go now. Find time today to check out Ranking of Kings. It will melt your heart, and you will be in just utter awe and shock at its genuine adorableness and authenticity. It's so good. Seriously, Ranking of Kings. Go check out little Boji and Kage. Go give them some love and let them love you with their antics and not just antics, but like compelling story that unfolds within Ranking of Kings. I'm serious, sorry. That is my one major request of everybody today. I started checking that out after the previous stream on Thursday with my buddy Coleman, and gotta say, little Boji, you're gonna love him. We also, he and I also beat Tales of Arise. That game had a pretty slick climax, and I feel that it's certainly a game worth playing. It slows down a bit towards the end, but the very finale was pretty exciting. All right. Without further ado, let's get right into the epic story selection that I have brought to us today, that Tor.com has brought to us today, and one Kelly Mikolo. This is the totally secret origin of Foxman. Excerpts from an epic autobiography. Guys, I saw this title, and boy howdy if it didn't jump off the page at me. Because how could it not? How could it not? I decided to look into the young adult section of Tor.com, and I'm pretty happy I did. I actually recognized one that I read before on my own channel, Rat Speak, and that one was genuinely just a slick tale. One that was kind of oddly uncanny, if you will. It was a story about this boy that could talk to rats, and so he went to like the subway and started speaking with the rats, and like found out about their secret society within the subway system. Dude, this one, I'm hoping we might have time to check that one out on another day, but that one was well worth reading. And so I scroll down a bit, and I see this. The totally secret origin of Foxman. Excerpts from an epic autobiography. And so, I'm thinking that today we're gonna have to check this out. Yeah, before we begin, allow me to try to sip once again from my elderberry tea. It's still very hot. It's still very hot. That is okay. It breathes life into my esophagus, so that I may read good story for audience. All right, let's see. What kind of ambiance is Foxman gonna need? Oh, that's cute, actually. Let's see. Designer jeans. Okay. Designer jeans. This is gonna have an urban setting? Okay. Let's see, tabletop audio. Do we have urban stuff? Closing time. You think this will be more old-timey, modern, or futuristic? That's the question. Maybe just straight city ambiance? Yeah, we'll start with this. A tea plea? Yes. Without a doubt. Alright, guys. So, this is the totally secret origin of Foxman. Excerpts from an epic autobiography by Kelly... excuse me. By the fabulous Foxman his own self. And not that silly ghostwriter, whatever he claims. Kelly McCullough. Who does he think he is? You won't save yourself that easily, Foxman! I had a dozen pairs of designer jeans trying to choke the life out of me, and the crudely welded neck piece of my brand new powered armor was creaking under the strain. I thought about flaming them with the rockets in my boots, but my Foxman suit was only mostly fireproof. A seam slipped between my neckpiece and my helmet, putting sudden pressure on my corroded artery. Was this really how my short career as a masked hero was going to end? Killed by Michael Damian, my former best friend? Only a few months ago, he'd been helping me build a rocket-propelled skateboard in our secret clubhouse. But that was before the hero bomb changed the whole world. As my vision darkened, I desperately tried to think of some way to transform the horrific haberdasher back into my old pal. And I glared at the words on the screen. That version of the story wouldn't do it all. No. Denmother, cut that last bit. It makes me sound too weak. If I'm going to do this whole stupid memoir thing, I might as well brag myself up. A smooth, mechanical voice responded. I think vulnerability might make you seem more human, sir. More relatable. Denmother is the voice in my head. Literally. I have speakers surgically implanted in my skull so that I can hear her no matter what. She, or rather, it, is the AI that runs my powered suit, my home, and my life. You're a bodiless computer. What do you know from human?
Per Standing Order 1134, I reviewed all the appropriate literature when you told me you were embarking on a new project. Vulnerability as a means of building sympathy for a character who might otherwise come across as narcissistic or negative is Narrative 101. Also, since this venture is supposed to be in lieu of cognitive therapy and other brain reprogramming techniques, I think that lying might have a negative impact on your prognosis, sir.
I paused. I've been having some problems lately. And not so lately. But I'm finally trying to do something about them. Thanks in part to my new sidekick, Meerkat. Unfortunately, the best ways to put your head right involve psychiatric professionals and talking therapy or medication. Shrinks are a non-starter. If I spill my guts to anybody who doesn't have the right security clearances, then Osiris, the delightful folks who regulate the whole masked hero world, will ban me for good. And the kind of shrink that comes with the Osiris seal of approval also comes with special reporting requirements under the Franklin Act of Metahuman Activities. Since I can't afford to have the Messier stuff in my head get back to Osiris, that way leads to banning too, or worse things. I'm out of luck on the psychiatric front. So, I've decided that I'll guide my own damned meditation and do something like talking therapy at the same time by writing my autobiography. Well, dictating it anyway. Oh, all right. I still don't think I need to reprogram my brain. But I suppose if I'm going to make the effort, I should optimize the new code I'm imposing on my frontal lobes. Let's try again. Only a step further back in time. Dim the lights and hold all my calls. We're going for a tour of my fundamental neurosis and the bomb that changed the world. I really didn't want to do this. Maybe if I pretended it was a screenplay? A major motion picture all about the fabulous Foxman? Yeah, let's go with that. Foxman's story. Not Rand's. Not mine. That would be easier. Like talking about things that happened to someone else. Establishing shot. Close in. A darkly handsome youth crouches on a skateboard in a classic pose coming off a jump. One hand lightly touching the deck, which is tilted steeply back. The nighttime background is hard to read, but gives the impression he's hundreds of feet in the air. His face wears an expression composed of equal parts terror and wonder. His mouth is open, as though he is screaming, but all is silence. Focus on the skateboard. It's 5 times thicker than it ought to be, and there's a bright point of nearly invisible flame at the oddly blunt tail. A white vapor trail leads back and down. Freeze. Shift to bullet time for a fast-tracking shot following that trail. It leads downward at a 45-degree angle to a steel support of a railroad bridge. The ramp. Turn. Zip back along the rough, rusty, riveted surface to a sharp bend, where it leads onto the top of a speeding train. From there, it moves the length of a car. Then the camera drops between 2 cars and plummets to the rails. The vapor trail continues along the right-hand rail toward shore. Pan back to the boy on his board. This time, the background is clear. Minneapolis, with the boy hanging in space, high above the ice-rimmed Mississippi River. The rocket is cut out. He seems perfectly balanced in the air for one more moment. Then, gravity reaches up and takes him. As he starts to fall, sound comes in normally. Oh, shit! Before he can finish speaking, an enormous bright flare starts below the packed deck of freeway bridge that has come into focus behind him. It looks like a nuke going off, only with strange arabesques of black light and neon green edges. The hero bomb. For a moment, we can see his bones as shadows against the light shining through him. Then the noise of the explosion engulfs the scene, and the boy begins the long fall to the icy, black water below. How I learned to love the bomb. And cut! No. I tell myself it's not working dramatically. That my choice to shift gears has nothing to do with the way my heart is feeling with lead. Or filling with lead. I tell myself I'm no good at this screenplay garbage. That if it ever makes it to the big screen, the ghostwriter will deal with making it cinematic. That I'm going to focus on what happened. I'm good at lying to myself. So very good at it that I almost believe my own nonsense. I turn my thoughts to the idea of a ghostwriter. That's safe. My breath comes easier. Yeah. What? You didn't think I was going to let this go out into the world in the rough, did you? I've got a reputation to maintain. Or the tattered remnants of one anyway. If it ever leaves the server, it'll do so after some serious massaging by someone with some major literary cred. Writers are cheap and plentiful, even the award-winning ones. Yes, a much safer ground. Time to begin again. So, rocket board, bridge, train, falling to my doom! The bomb! That's more or less how it happened. I mean, the hero bomb might have actually gone off a couple minutes earlier, but moving it up into the moment makes it more dramatic. It makes it more real than reality, right? Bone-numbing impact that drives the breath from my lungs. Icy black water closing over my head. Panic! The voice in my head whispers. Oh, what's that, Den Mother?
Don't forget the effort of your powers on the rocket, sir. Also, your breathing and heart rate suggest extreme distress. Perhaps, if you put on your armor...
The rocket? Yes, but... No, alright. I'll put that in too. Damned AI, keeping me on task, keeping me honest, saving my soul. You're probably right about the armor. Rand is too. Vulnerable and squishy and close to the problem. Let's let Foxman handle it. I spread my arms as I step up onto the armor platform. Nothing happened. Right. Breathalyzer. I've been clean and sober for a year. But what Osiris wants, Osiris gets. After I finished breathing into the tube, there was brief interlude with automated power tools as I slipped out of myself and into something a bit more comfortable. Red and white powered assault armor with a grinning fox mask and fluffy-looking tail, all rendered in a polyceramic composite of my own invention. Now, where were we? Right. Without the hero bomb and the powers it gave me, I could never have survived the fall. Even if I had, I'd probably have gone hypothermic and drowned before I could swim ashore. On the other hand, the rocket on my skateboard would never have been half as effective. And I'd gotten off the track long before meeting the train. That would have precluded the need to use the bridge strut like a jump. But the point is, still, the bomb and the powers it gave me. No, not me. Foxman. All right. I'll go back a bit further. This was supposed to be therapy, which demands honesty. Perhaps if I went with something earlier, something safer. It maybe started with my 16th birthday present from my dad, Archibald Hammer of Fox Hammer Industries. God, how I hated that car. My relationship with my father was difficult. What with him dumping my mother and using a whole herd of his fancy corporate lawyers to prevent her from getting so much as a penny in the divorce. He thought he'd end up with me too, but when the judge asked who I wanted to live with, I chose Mom. I think that might have been the first time in his whole life my dad lost out of something he wanted. Billionaires rarely do. The car, a brand new '88 Corvette, was his latest attempt to buy me back, and I'd sworn never to drive it, which is why I was messing around with rockets and skateboards. A guy's gotta get around somehow. Besides, gutting that shiny new engine for parts to build the rocket felt like the perfect kick in the balls for the old man. And so it went. Rand, when are you going to schedule your driver's test? My mother knocked on the locked door of my room in our little apartment. It's been more than a month. Think of all the things you could do if you could drive. I've almost got the Triumph running. I glanced guiltily at the half-rebuilt carburetor sitting on the corner of my work table I'd welded together from wheel rims and an old security door. But I'd long since lost interest in the project, and had started quietly gutting it for parts, along with the vet. Anybody could rebuild a car. I want to take it in my own car. A boy your age should be getting out more, going to movies, dating. You could use the vet. No! It's a new car, Ran. And it's got your name on the title. In a mostly empty engine compartment. Not that I wanted her to know that. I will never drive that car. Look, just because your dad and I got a divorce doesn't mean you have to cut him out of your life, too. I am not having this conversation again. I growled as I stuffed tools into my backpack. No, Mom. Rand, he could do so much for you. But I was already going out my window. I used one foot to pin my skateboard to the roof of the shuttered warehouse and butted up against our apartment building, while I closed the window. Then I tipped the board onto the steep slope and shot away. At the edge of the roof, I kicked up the nose and dropped 6 feet onto the top of a shining container in the fenced-in yard of my warehouse. My wheels barely touched down before I was across and taking the next drop onto the concrete. In a normal winter, I would have had to shovel my way from there to the back door of the battered old building. But it had been unusually warm this year, with repeated cold rains wiping out the snow. There was ice, sure, but surprisingly little for late November. As I got closer to the door, I hit the button on the garage door opener clipped to my backpack, and, hey, presto, I was inside. The noise of my wheels echoed weirdly as I rolled half the length of the enormous empty space on my way to the old office block. The padlock there was latched with the hasp open, so that it couldn't be closed from the outside. That meant Michael had gotten in before me. No surprise on a Saturday. He was a morning person, and I preferred not to get out of bed before noon. The outer office was quite warm, which told me he'd been there a couple of hours, and I could hear the sound of the old Singer industrial sewing machine I'd refurbed for him. I poked my head into the room he'd taken for himself. "What you working on?" He never looked up from the machine, or the dark velvety material he was sewing. "Got an idea for a formal look duster. Can't talk." That was classic Michael. Slim and dark-haired with a sardonic smile. He was incredibly tense about clothes in every possible way. They spoke to him. Thick wooden closet rods had turned the abandoned office into something like a giant wardrobe or drive-in closet, with thousands of outfits hanging there. Overhead racks blossomed with hats, and hundreds of pairs of shoes and boots stood beneath the clothing. Michael himself had on a fancy three-piece suit from some European clothiers. Odd sewing wear for anyone but my best friend. I'd met Michael at the extremely fancy private academy we both attended. My dad had paid for my schooling until recently, but I'd been on scholarship since the divorce. Michael's tuition was covered by the weirdest trust fund you could possibly imagine. His parents had been quite wealthy, if not in the same league as my dad, but they died when Michael was 13. Now he lived in a big mansion on Summit Hill with a butler he absolutely detested. The trust fund paid for that. His schooling, a modest allowance, any food he ate at home, and an unlimited clothing budget. The senior Damien's money had come from their international haberdashery empire, and they'd left their fortune and their obsessions to their son, along with the deed to his warehouse. I nodded at the back of Michael's head and wandered over to the room that had once been the warehouse's workshop. There on the bench lay the guts of the vet's fuel injection system, which I was attempting to convert into the guts of a hydrogen peroxide rocket engine. I wanted to make it small enough to fit between the decks of two skateboards I'd also cannibalized for the project. As I started my soldering iron heating, I ran my finger along my left eyebrow, feeling for the bare patch left by the little hiccup I'd had with the iron and some spilled rocket fuel a few weeks ago. It had started to grow back, but I like to remind myself that A, caution is important, and B, any day working on rockets without a dangerous explosion was a good day. Time passed. Boom! Oh well. Once Michael helped me put out the small fire on my workbench, we decided to knock off for a bit and get some burgers. The railway provided us with a little slice of urban wilderness, mostly cut off from the city around it. We could sit on the brush-covered slopes out of sight of anyone official and do the sorts of things that teenage boys playing hooky have always done. There were bums around, sure, but we had something of a truce with the regulars. Besides, we were 15 and 16. You know, invulnerable. But tonight was different. Tonight we were going to test my rocket board. It was December 15th, around 6 p.m. Solidly dark and into rush hour. There'd been some real snow finally, which made the pavement into a death trap for a skateboard going a reasonable speed. And in the rocket, yeah, not going to happen. Not inside the warehouse either. I'd already had plenty of warnings about the dangers of mixing rocket fuel and interior spaces. That's how I'd settled on the railway. Not only was it clear of snow, but it was a perfect straightaway. I'd had to rig up a custom wheel set and a magnetic lock, but now the only way off the rail involved me hitting the tow release. That meant I didn't need to worry about turns or bumps or anything but staying on board. Perfect! Michael shook his head as I locked the board onto the rail. I don't know, Rand. Don't you think this is kind of dangerous? Maybe an unmanned test first? Don't worry! I've already tested the thrust on the rocket 17 ways from Sunday. It'll barely get me to 15 miles an hour before it tops out. A bike goes way faster than that. If anything goes wrong, I can jump clear easy. It'll be fine. What about the bridge? That's nearly a mile away. I don't even have enough fuel to make it that far. I'm going to go half a mile on rocket assist, max. I'll coast to a stop well short of the bridge. I've done all the math more times than I care to count. I was more nervous than that, but hell if I'd admit it to Michael. I did check the straps on my helmet and various pads one more time. I know I didn't mention them in the script version of this scene, but that's the movies, man. Safety gear isn't cinematic. I stepped up onto the board. Wish me luck! Good luck, crazy man. I poised the toe of my sneaker above the rocket, engage, and the world vanished with an intense purple flash like the world's biggest blacklight strobe firing off. For one brief instant, I could see Michael's skeleton like a green framework within the translucent purple outline of his body. Oddly, nothing else seemed to go translucent. But I barely registered that over a sensation that felt like someone pumping every cell in my body full of hydrogen and lighting it on fire. Crack-boom! The sound of the hero bomb hit like summer lightning, taking out the tree I was leaning on. If not for the shelter banks of the railway, I think it might have knocked me off the board. Is it any wonder I accidentally stomped on the rocket engine? The rocket ignition? Foosh! Instead of the fizzy noise I'd grown used to in testing, the rocket engaged with the full-throated roar of a fighter plane. I should have fallen off, but I could feel the board working with me, telling me what it was going to do and when. It sort of gripped my feet as well. Add in new and as yet unrecognized improved physical strength and reflexes, and I stayed on. I must have been going close to 100 miles an hour when I reached the bridge and saw the oncoming train. Terror filled me, and I stomped on the trail of the board. I forgot to tow the magnetic release, but it let go anyway, possibly in response to my unvoiced command. The rocket lifted me up, and I just cleared the front of that first car. I shot along the roof, knowing that I was going to fall between it and the next one and die. But then the board spoke to me again, pointing me at the possible out. Without thinking, I followed its direction, leaning to the right so that I sailed off the side of the car, hit a steeply angled girder, and rode it like the world's craziest skateboard ramp. My fuel ran out a few feet short of the end, but I kept right on going, rising up off the girder in a beautiful, ballistic arc that ultimately terminated in the cold black waters below. Freezing. Drowning. Dying. Yet still burning with the cellular level changes the bomb had initiated. Oh. It is time. I spilled the water. This has been hydration. Thank you, King Gikura, for redeeming hydration. This has been the water time. The time in which water. That's just for you, Kingy. I'm also gonna drink a little more tea here. Oh, yes. It's at the perfect temperature. Quickly, seal the tea. Oh, man, that's good. Oh, bro. Bro. I cannot express how delicious that tea is. If you ever have a chance, try elderberry tea. This stream is not sponsored by elderberry tea, but you should try it anyway. Alright, and now. Oh, dude, for real. Elderberry, man. Alright, let us continue the story. Tumbling and twirling and passing out only to wake up on a narrow tongue of ice sticking out into a calm place in the turbulent waters. Somehow crawling to shore and staggering upright, dragging myself homeward, stopping briefly at the warehouse to steal a change of clothes from Michael's too abundant supply. A mistake that, in retrospect, a silly, stupid, childish mistake that I would later compound hopelessly. But I didn't dare let my mom see what the fall and the river had done to my own clothes. There was no hiding the mud or the blood. She'd have grounded me for a million years if she caught me coming in wearing that, or found it later. Michael was smaller than me, and most of his clothes were hopeless. But I noticed a cheap-looking suit on the end of one of the racks that seemed bigger than his usual choices. It was a little tight, and the fabric was in terrible shape. Picked up at Goodwill for parts, probably. But it would do enough for decency's sake. And it wasn't covered in river muck and my own blood. I blew out both shoulders of the jacket, climbing onto the shipping container, and ripped a knee open on the brickwork below my bedroom window. Then the zipper stuck as I was trying to get out of the pants, and I had to break it. I felt pretty bad about what I'd done to my borrowed wardrobe, but I was shaking and burning and freezing all at the same time. I couldn't think or see straight, and once I'd stripped off my ruined clothing, I dropped it out the window so my mom wouldn't find it and wonder. Then I fell headlong into bed. Rand, honey? Are you finally coming round? Oh, whoops. Sorry, I thought she was yelling from outside the door again. Rand, honey? Are you finally coming round? I felt a cool touch on my forehead. I remember vaguely thinking Mom must have popped the lock. Easy enough with a screwdriver. She normally respected my privacy, so something important must have happened. Fine. Just need a little sleep. I started to slip back into dreamland. She caught hold of my shoulders. Honey, you've been sleeping for 9 days! Before I could even think to respond, she pulled me into a hug. What? I forced my eyes open. You're kidding, right? But the look on her face said anything but. No, I wish I was. Her mouth kept moving, but I couldn't hear a word she said over the ringing in my ears. You see, I'd finally looked past her face to see the room around me. It was my bedroom, but not the one in the apartment. It was my old room in the Hammer Mansion up on Summit Hill. You didn't go to Dad for help just because I was sick, did you? It would have hurt her terribly to have to do that. I'm so sorry. No, Rand, I didn't go to your dad. Then why are we here? Because there was more room for the doctors to set up and come and go as they needed in your house than in my apartment. What do you mean, my house? You know I don't want to live with Dad. Honey? There's no easy way to say this. Your father is dead. What? How? I felt suddenly hollow, empty at my core where the fiery ball of rage I'd built for my dad collapsed in on itself, leaving nothing behind but an icy void. He couldn't do this to me. We hadn't settled anything yet. My mother kept talking. There was a bomb. A sort of radiological bomb. Like a nuke? Was that what that flash was? I could see Michael's bones right through his flesh. Something like a nuke, yes. It took down the I-94 bridge, but they say that was only because of the priming charge. The actual radiological effect didn't do physical damage to anything, but it killed, well, a whole lot of people. Hundreds of thousands. Oh my God. Hang on, Rand, let me finish. Because there's more, and it's really important. They're saying the death toll was asymmetric. Some people who were 50 feet away from the blast were completely unaffected. Some who were 50 miles away were killed. Others, a very small number of others, were changed. Changed? How? And what's that got to do with me? You wouldn't wake up, so I called 911. When the paramedics tried to move you, you picked one of them up with one hand and threw him across the room. They radioed it in, and less than 10 minutes later, a helicopter arrived. There was a woman in it. A very strange woman. Her hair was green and gold. Like those circuit boards you're always taking apart. She had more gold tattooed across her cheek. like a circuit set right through her skin, and her eyes. Brr. Brr. My mother hugged herself and shivered. She looked frightened, and that terrified me. I'd never seen my mother scared of anything, not even when she was fighting my dad's legions of flesh-eating lawyers during the divorce. She put a little blue box on your forehead. After a minute or so, it beeped and a green light turned on, and she nodded at the paramedic. He's one of ours, all right. Get a gurney and load him on the chopper. Like hell, I said. Then what happened? I was about to put my body between you and the door when your father's lawyer walked in. My father had about a zillion lawyers, but only one that my mother would refer to as your father's lawyer. Marcus Hamilton was Lucifer in a pinstriped suit, and my father's personal pet devil. Hamilton said, "Did I hear you tell those paramedics to take my client somewhere while he's unconscious and against the wishes of Camilla Hammer, his mother and legal guardian?" The woman with the weird hair looked at him and then sniffed. Do I smell a lawyer? Hamilton handed her his card. I am the chief legal officer of Foxhammer Industries, and my client is the primary shareholder and ex officio chairman of the board. I'm what now? Blinking owlishly. Oh, I'm what now? Blinking owlishly, I interpreted my mother's retelling of the scene earlier. The voice of Marcus Hamilton spoke from somewhere behind her now. I guess it's wanting me to actually do their voices. Previously I was doing the mom doing the voices, but I'm going to switch now to the actual voices. You own a controlling interest in Foxhammer, worth $1.7 billion. Though it's to remain in trust until you reach 18, or pass a series of tests your father left you. Likewise, about another $1.5 billion in mixed assets. That was terrifying. Oh! My! The lawyer stepped forward. Now that you're properly awake, I need your authorization to make some phone calls. You are properly awake, aren't you? I think so. Phone calls? I need to speak with the woman your mother was telling you about. She's the director of Osiris, a government intelligence organization that is taking the lead on the aftermath of the bomb that killed your father. She became much more cooperative after I pointed out the sensitivity of grabbing the owner of one of America's most important defense contractors in the middle of a military emergency. But she was most insistent that she have the opportunity to talk with you if you recovered. If? I said. My mother gripped my wrist. We were so worried. I guess I better talk with the lady from Osiris, I said. Marcus nodded. I'll see to it. She calls herself Backflash. Backflash. The next few weeks passed in a sort of manic blur. I had a number of conversations with Backflash as she outlined the effects of what had since come to be known as the hero bomb on those with the right gene complexes. How we had been granted special gifts that we could use for good or evil, and how Osiris was hoping to steer our talents in the proper direction. I also watched a lot of TV, where the exploits of some of my fellow metahumans were making big news, and a whole new language was growing up to describe them. Most notable was Captain Commanding, with his amazing strength and near invulnerability. But there were many others, both heroic masks and villainous hoods. Some of the crimes sounded incredibly surreal, like the Dayton's department store, where the entire contents of the menswear section had assembled themselves into matching outfits, broken out a glass door, and marched away into the night. When I wasn't doing that or listening to mind-numbingly intense lectures about the family holdings and Foxhammer Industries from Hamilton, I was out in my dad's workshop behind the main house. Say what you will about my father, he made his money the hard way, by dint of a true engineering genius and an absolutely ruthless pursuit of the commercial ends of that genius. The carriage house he'd converted to a workshop was amazing, and I was 3/4 out of my mind. The machinery spoke to me. All machinery spoke to me, but especially the tools in the workshop. They wanted me to use them to build something amazing. I think much of my dad's soul, if such a thing exists, is there, tied forever to the machines he loved more than people. Working with them made that cold, empty place where my anger used to live feel less dead. I don't know if I really can express it properly. I didn't hate what my dad had done to my mom one tiny bit less. But the rage was gone, and I had begun to admit to myself that much of the fire I'd felt was a desire to prove my father wrong, to make him admit how unfair his treatment of my mom had been, how unfair it was that he had forced me to choose between them, how unfair it was that he'd put me in a position where the only answer I could give the judge was the one I had. He took everything from her. Everything but me. If I'd chosen him, it would have killed her. I loved them both, and I would have sold my soul not to have had to make that choice. But because of him, I had to. He forced me to push him away. I'd wanted to make him see that, to apologize to me for making me destroy the relationship between us. Now that that could never happen, my father was gone, and I could never make him ask me to forgive him. And if he didn't ask,
Sir? Are you all right?
Denmother's cool voice cut across my memories.
Your heart rate and blood pressure are both spiking into the red zone. Do you need me to administer a tranquilizer?
I shook my head. No. This is the point of the exercise. I need to do this, to feel it. I'll be all right. I didn't believe that, but I couldn't stop now. It really was the point. Working with my dad's tools, I built the first iteration of the Foxman suit. On TV, I'd watched Captain Commanding and some of the others picking up tanks and throwing them around. I wasn't anything like that strong, but I knew that I could be. Stronger, even. I just had to build my own muscles. My dad had gone beyond my reach, but his spirit spoke to me in the sizzle of the welder and the whine of the metal saw. I hammered out my new identity on the forge of his soul. Well, that was poetic. Snap. Also, I gotta say, I don't know what I expected from this story, but it's pretty good. I don't know, what do you guys think so far? We're a little over halfway through it, so take a small breather here to get everybody's thoughts. Mitch, can you please explain what the picture of you as a gargoyle was? Yeah. Gargoyle moment. Gargoyle moment. Gargoyle moment. Bro, that was a gargoyle moment. Any questions? Heck yeah, I can get down with that, Randy. Oh, that's what I was saying, Kingy, honestly. Make it cost a solid amount, but yeah. 1,000 points, become a gargoyle. Just gonna have to pray that my dresser holds. One of these days, it's just gonna like fall apart under my feet. Now that will be a gargoyle moment. knock on wood though. True. Yeah, that's over on my channel. We've had that one for a long time. The Book on Face Redemption. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah, that's what I was worried about in the pick, because dressers usually aren't very strong unless you pay for it to be that strong. I mean, it's an old dresser, but it's well built. It's pretty hefty. And I made sure to stand on like the corner there, because that seems to be like where the most support is. But yeah, right about, hang on. Yeah, right about there is where I become gargoyle. That's where I goyle, you know? Because, I mean, if you've ever goyled before, then you know you gotta have a nice antique dresser. Fiberboard is really dense. It's more what joint and fastener you use than the material. Huh. I did not know that. Unless you're talking about some really weak material like drywall. I see. So don't goyle on drywall. Let this be a lesson to you. Do not goyle on drywall. Dude, for real. Hi. Have you ever wanted to goyle, but didn't have an antique dresser to do so? Well, boy, do we have the antique dressers for you. Come on down to Goyle Emporium, where we sell you the perfect antique dressers for goiling. Look at all the people in here. They're goiling left and right. That guy's goiling. That lady over there, she's goiling. You can come on down and test out all the antique drawers to goil it up for all your goiling needs. Come on down today and have a gargoyle moment, and now have a gargoyle day. This has been Goyle Emporium's very own Goyle Gorpson. Alright. Yo, Bebo, what's up? You missed the gargoyle moment. It's okay, though. It's time for hydration. It's time for me to drink water. Water. This has been the water time. The time in which water. Thank you for redeeming water time. This has been the time in which Merry Mitch drinks water. Yeah, dude, I do a pretty good lemon grab when I need to. They call me the Great Hydrato. I come from the land of hydration, where there are hydration stations around every corner. Bebo, since you just got here, we are reading The Totally Secret Origin of Foxman. Excerpts from an epic autobiography. And so far so good. We've learned of this guy who built a skateboard, tied some rockets to it. His mom and dad were divorced. he took the rocket skateboard, tried it out on a railroad, but then a train was coming and he hit the gas too hard on the skateboard rocket and he was gonna crash right into the train, but then he went off onto another rail, ended up going straight towards a bridge. The bridge started doing that thing where it went, and so he rode up the rail and flew out over the Mississippi River, and then a bomb went off, like a nuclear explosion, and he fell into the Mississippi River itself. And after he fell into the Mississippi River, he woke up 9 days later, somehow made it back to his, order of events. He somehow made it back to his home, and then fell asleep on his bed and woke up 9 days later to find his dad had died. Thanks in part to the bomb that changed the world. The bomb also gave a bunch of people superpowers, including himself. But we're not sure what those superpowers are yet. We just know that he has now inherited his father's fortune and mansion and is going to try to build... this is essentially... Hang on. Give me just a second. I can show you. This is gonna take a little bit of doing. Give me a sec. Oh gosh, dude, what kind of image is that? What? Hang on. Nah, you're kidding me. Alright, hang on. Give me just a bit here. Again, as I said, this will take some doing. There we go. No. No, which is the best one for this? This one's pretty good. Oh. Ah, man. Ah, gosh. Don't you hate it when you try to save images and they turn out to be, and the PNG turns out to be a web file? That's just the worst, dude. This is a JPEG? What? Wait, yeah, let's try this. This one's pretty good, actually. There we go. Alright, thank you for bearing with me. This well, we'll see if this was actually worth it or not. Alright, first we need this. Good. Good. Excellent. You do love to see it. Now I need an I. Comes after H, yeah? Here he is. Alright. Now we're talking. This is essentially... Oh no! Wait, 2 back. How do I send this to the back? Blah, blah, blah. Oh man, hang on. This really do be taking some doing though. There we go. Now we got it. Yes. This is essentially Iron Fox. My company was throwing away a ton of old computers, and my coworker took a few of them, and I told him to mine on them, or something, and I'm pretty sure he's doing it now. Nice. Huh. I don't know anything about Bitcoin mining. Oh, NFT. We'll leave him up there. Well, good old Nick. In the Iron Man suit, because Foxman, that's essentially what this is. And man, I'm here for it. All right. Apologies for the interruption. Now we may continue. Nick Crompton? No, Nick Wild. Alright. Most of the world thinks the battle with Spartanicus, when I saved Captain Commanding's life, as the first appearance of Foxman. That's because I never told anyone about my fight with the haberdasher. The day I broke my best friend. Yo, what a villain name. The haberdasher. I went over every inch of the suit again. I'd been able to run isolation trails with all of the weapons, and with the force amplification generated by the muscle boosters, one arm or leg at a time. But the rockets didn't work that way. Testing them was an all-in kind of bet. Either the crude flight AI I'd built would allow me to successfully pilot something with the lift aspect of a brick, or it wouldn't, and I would run into something solid at several hundred miles per hour. If the latter happened, the armor might save me, or then again, it might not. I don't think I'd have tried it if I was completely sane, but I wasn't even close at that point. In addition to the changes the hero bomb had wrought in making my body stronger and tougher, it had done a major rewiring job on my brain. And those aspects weren't even close to settled at that point. I suspect that all of us who have acquired powers of the mind through exposure to the radiation that triggers the metahuman gene cascade go a bit mad for a time. Especially those of us who came to it young, when the brain is stewing in hormones. When I finished with the maintenance checklist on the armor proper, I took the tail off and ran one last pressure test before filling it with a special hydrazine-based fuel mix I'd concocted. What language am I speaking? Yo, you tell me, Bebo. I honestly have no clue. I'm speaking, workshop. That was the original reason for the tail. Somebody always asks. It provided me with an external tank for rocket fuel, and that made sense for all kinds of reasons. Starting with ease of separation if something went wrong, and ending with keeping the major explosions on the other side of the armor from my precious hide. The tail was never just about decoration, though I've always thought it looks great. Tails are cool. Once I armored up, I slipped into the darkened yard and toggled the fuel valve. Hydrazine flowed through the armor lines on the outside of my legs, down to the ports in the rocket nozzles in my boots. Taking a deep breath, I lowered my hands to the sides and engaged the caches on the steel bat wings that I used on the first version of the suit. Raising my arms to 90 degrees gave me something of the look of a flying squirrel. I engaged the rockets. Foosh! The next 5 minutes involved more direction changes than a bouncy ball shot into an empty concrete mixer, and more close calls than a tap-dancing buffalo in a crowded antique shop. I had to open my helmet and throw up. Twice. But at the end of that time, I was flying in a more or less controlled fashion. That wanted a destination, so I decided to stop back at our secret clubhouse and pick up some of the gear I'd left there. I landed on the back door a few minutes later, opened it, and picture the storeroom for a costume shop at the largest theater you've ever seen, filled with endless rows and heaps of the most bizarre and wonderful outfits you can imagine. Picture several such rooms. Toss the contents into the biggest clothes dryer in the whole world, start it up. When it's spinning its fastest, open the door. The inside of the warehouse looked like the laundromat in the middle of that clothing explosion. Yo, you found a fun game, Bebo? What's the game? There were clothes everywhere, and in every possible attitude. Heaps of clothes, racks of clothes, entire outfits hanging in the air like sales displays. Sans? Do-do-do-do. Sans? What? I mean, that's meant to be stands, right? No, I'm gonna stick with sans. Heaps of clothes, racks of clothes, entire outfits hanging in the air like sales display sans. The mannequins. Shirts arranged like the petals of some gigantic sartorial rose. Rows of pants caught seemingly mid-dance number. It was like a pandemonium of sartorial excess, and it filled the warehouse from floor to ceiling. What had been going on while I was away? I started picking my way toward the offices and my own little workroom. I had crossed perhaps 15 feet when a green-faced figure in a gray suit and a bowler hat leapt at me out of one of the piles of clothing, swinging an umbrella at my face. It happened so quickly, I didn't have time to do anything before the umbrella hit my steel muzzle and snapped. Then I overreacted, pointing my left fist at the thing's chest and firing both of my wrist-mounted rockets. They punched straight through and blew up a huge mound of clothing on the other side. For one horrified moment, I was certain I'd killed someone. But despite the gaping holes in its chest, the figure hadn't fallen. And once I had a moment to really look at it, I realized it was nothing more than an empty suit. Literally. There was no one inside the gray wool coat and pants, and what I had initially taken for a face was actually a handbag, made to look like a huge green apple perched between the white shirt's collar and the bowler hanging above. Creepy. The suit lunged, extending the broken umbrella like a rapier. It drove the jagged end into the eye socket of my helmet. That startled me, but didn't do any harm, as it encountered an inch-thick circle of bulletproof glass and bent double. Spinning, I extended the blades that took the place of rockets on my left wrist and sliced the outfit in half. It crumpled and fell to the floor. But even as I started to breathe a little sigh of relief, I saw other outfits staggering up from the piles, an entire army of empty suits rising to assault me like some twisted allegory for corporate America. I should have turned back, but I was closer to the offices than the exits, and I fought my way forward, slicing down one faceless attacker after another, until a great wave of sweatpants tumbled me, and I broke my blades on the concrete floor. I might have gone under, and stayed under then, but I saw the office block through the gap in the fleecy waves, and triggered a brief burst from my boot rockets, launching me forward through the open doorway. Before I'd even come to a stop, I kicked the door shut behind me. Slam! Rising to hands and knees, I glanced around. Through the inner door on my left, I could see Michael working away on his sewing machine. At least, I presumed it was Michael. It certainly looked like him from the back, though what I could see of his outfit looked even wilder than his usual style. A natty bottle green collar was just visible above a red velvet in his long coat, while a tall black top hat rose above. Is that you under all that banal iron monogary brand? Menagerie. Oh, menagerie. Is that you under all that banal iron menagerie, Rand? It was Michael's voice, but wrong somehow, simultaneously muffled and manic. I nodded, then realized he couldn't see me without turning around, which made me wonder about his comment on my armor. Yeah. Are you all right, Michael? Michael is dead, he replied. Then he stood and slowly turned around. In addition to the tall hat, and hang on, let me find, there's gotta be a warehouse ambiance, right? Yes. Yeah. Michael is dead, he replied. Then he stood and slowly turned around. In addition to the tall hat, and what was now revealed to be a Regency-style velvet topcoat, he wore a pair of tight black trousers and high, polished riding boots. His face was partially hidden behind a sort of veil made from black netting that fell all the way to his cravat. Wide measuring tapes crossed his chest in an X, like a pair of bandoliers. They were studded with dozens of shining needles, as well as a wide variety of pearl and shell buttons, tiny spools of thread, thimbles, and other tools of the sewing trade. If Michael's dead, who are you? I asked. And how did he die? I am the haberdasher. Though I was Michael Damien, right up until you killed him. What now? You murdered him along with that ruined suit you so casually discarded. Suit? What? What? But then I remembered staggering home after the hero bomb and borrowing a suit from the rack there. Wait, that thing? I leant forward into the doorway. It was more than half wrecked when I put it on. Surely you're not going to freak out about that? That was the suit that founded a stittery empire, replied the haberdasher. My mother hand-sewed it for my father, so that he'd have something appropriate to wear to the bank when he asked for a loan to start their haberdashery business. It was the one true thing I had left from my parents' life. And you practically destroyed it! They told me all about your abuse and the way you threw it out the window. Threw it away like garbage! Oh, thank you, Firefox. Appropriate for the story. Before I could so much as take one step further, a whole swarm of designer jeans leapt on me from behind, squeezing and tugging, half blinding me. I had to do something quickly, or the horrible haberdasher's army of animated apparel would be the end of me. I activated the tiny circular saw in the back of my right gauntlet. If I could just cut through the death-dealing denim without slicing my own throat. But even as I cautiously applied saw to fabric, a precisely aimed fedora, wedged under the edge of the spinning blade, caused it to seize with a sharp, whining sound. Within seconds, I had strips of denim pressing deep into the hinge mechanisms of my armor at knees and elbows, binding them up and rendering much of my amplified strength moot. When a seam slipped past my neckpiece and started to cut off the blood to my brain, I knew I only had seconds to act. As I went over backward, I spotted a tattered suit pinned on a tailor's dummy, where the haberdasher had begun to make a painstaking series of repairs, and I realized I only had one chance. Triggering the rocket in my right boot for a fraction of a second, I watched the dummy with the briefest burst of flame while I aimed my other boot at the nearby racks. It was a calculated risk. If I burned the place down, I'd cook with it. But I figured that here, in his inner sanctum, was where the haberdasher would keep his most precious items of apparel. Witness his father's suit. "Let me go, haberdasher! Let me go, or I'll burn them all to a crisp! I swear I will! I will burn every last one of them, and you will hear them screaming in your dreams for all the days of your life!" I didn't know that Michael could hear the clothes talking to him in the same way I could hear machines talking to me. But it was the only card I could play. "You wouldn't," he whispered, but the denim eased. Well, Well, that was something. My internet just decided to die. It just decided, hey, Mitch, I will die now. Ah! Thankfully, it's back. I have no idea what happened. I don't know if someone in the house just like a gremlin snuck in and just disconnected the Ethernet cord or something. But I'm back. All good. Internet's back in working order and good as can be. I'm sorry about that, guys. I've honestly never had something like that happen before. Um, I'll have to look into it later, but for now, we are we are a-okay. Gonna get this ambiance back in working order and continue the story. Yeah, Bebo, exactly. Where did it cut off? In other words, where should I start back in the story? I missed the water time. I missed water. It is the water time. This has been the water time. Thank you for redeeming hydration. This has been the water time. The time in which merrymitch drinks water. Oh gosh. Is my internet going goofy again? Okay. Oh man, come on, internet. We got like 13 minutes left. All right. We're just gonna keep on. Am I recording on unregistered Hypercam 1? You caught me, guys. I am. This whole time, it's been unregistered Hypercam 1. I didn't want to reveal it because I'm afraid people might steal my secrets and start doing the same, but you heard it here first. I'm on unregistered Hypercam 1. But hopefully it's back. And we can continue the story. Open, yeah, we don't have much left, so let's see if we can't finish this before the end of my time. And before my internet decides to die again for no reason. So, the haberdasher just said, don't. No. Please. Let the garments go unharmed. I surrender. The jeans released their grip on me, falling to the floor in loose piles. I defeated my first hood. To borrow this mad new world's parlance. But I didn't have the foggiest notion what to do with him next. What is parlance? That might be our word of the day, fellas. A particular way of speaking or using words. especially a common way to those with a particular job or interest. Huh. And yeah, let me plop that where cowd used to be. Or sorry, pinks it. Oh. Check it out. Word of the day. Parlance. Have I ever read The Road? I don't think so. Sounds somewhat familiar, though. But I didn't have the foggiest notion what to do with him next. I couldn't keep my rockets trained on the clothes forever. So, now what? I didn't realize I'd spoken aloud until I heard a quiet answer from the room behind me. Osiris will take it from here, Foxman. That's the reason we exist. Backflash? I glanced over my shoulder and found myself looking deep into green eyes flecked with gold. She walked past me and Michael tensed. But then, moving with astonishing speed, she touched a small black device to the back of Michael's neck where it fastened itself. Instantly, his shoulders slumped and he went unnaturally still. Backflash touched the black box and spoke quietly. There's a helicopter waiting outside. Haberdasher. He nodded, a zombie sort of nod, and started shuffling toward the door. Halfway there, he stopped and looked at Backflash. They said I was mad about clothes. Mad. But I showed them all. The clothes speak to me. I'm sure they do, Haberdasher. And that they will again in the future. Now go on out to the chopper. All right. Then he was gone, and Backflash was walking a slow circle around me, looking over the armor and occasionally touching this bit or that. Nice work, Rand. Nice work indeed. You show very great promise. I blinked at her owlishly. My head felt like it was full of lint. My best friend nearly just killed me over a cheap suit. And with one, come to think of it. Backflash nodded, and I thought I could see a sort of sadness deep in her eyes. Yes, he did. And there's going to be a lot more of that sort of thing before it gets better. A lot more. Then she turned, and without another word, followed Michael out the door. I went to the suit on the tailor's dummy and patted out a faintly smoking spot on the lapel. I would take it home and see if I couldn't repair it for Michael. I owed him that and more. After all, I knew a thing or two about unfinished business with dead fathers. The voice that spoke in my head then was clean and genderless. Dead mother.
Excellent first session, sir. A good step in the right direction.
I wasn't so sure that rebattling the haberdasher in the past would help with battling my current demons. but I guessed it was a start, and I'd promised Meerkat that I would try. I owed my sidekick that, and so much more. Well, guys, that was the totally secret origin of Foxman. Excerpts from an epic autobiography by Kelly McCullough. That was pretty sick. Randy. Randy, what kind of stretch do you want, my man? Handstand, kicks, or back bend? Handstand, kicks, or back bend? You decide. While you decide, it is time for hydration. This has been the normal way in which merrymitch drinks water. Thank you for redeeming water. You want gargoyle for the stretch? All right. You know, give the people what they want. Alright, guys, it's time. Let's get on some appropriate music for this gargoyle moment. Let's see. What would be the one? Yeah, this is the one. Alright, I got to take a whiz real quick. But as soon as I come back through that door, it's gargoyle time. Back in a flash. guys. Remember to take the merriment we found here together today. Let it set you at ease as you go forth with the rest of your goings-ons. And let it carry you into tomorrow. I love you guys very much. And this has been the Merry Mitch segment of the Three Attic Network stream. Hope you enjoy the rest of the show, guys. And this has been a gargoyle moment. Yeah. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'm gonna go ahead and click on my outro theme and be catching you guys on the next one. Much, much love. Again, remember to take the merriment we found here together today. Let it set you at ease as you go forth with your goings-ons, and let it carry you into tomorrow. Remember to laugh, remember to smile, and spread the merriment to those you love and those you don't. Love yourself first so that you might love others next. And hope you'll join us in the rest of our Three Attic shenanigans. Again, much love. I have been Merry Mitch. Till next time, guys.